Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Music Den. I'm your host, Armando Venditti. Hoping you guys are having a good day and again that you're looking after yourselves and one another. Today, ladies and gentlemen, let's talk some Genesis, specifically Genesis Live. Before I begin, I'd like to welcome back to the channel Jim Bricker. How you doing, Jim?
I am doing all right, Armando. Thanks again for having me back on to bloviate some more.
Anytime if you feel like you can put up with me, anytime. You're welcome back anytime. Ladies and gentlemen, about 2 weeks ago, or about 10 days ago, sorry, I did a live album spotlight on Genesis Live. And that video garnered quite a few views. And I thank you very much for that. It got me thinking about all of the live Genesis albums that have come out over the years. There have been 5 officially released up until 2009 when there was sixth one released, sorry, in the box set, Genesis Live 1973 to 2007. And I will show you the booklet here. Forgive my stubby little fingers, but there you go. Here's the booklet for the Genesis Live box set. Now, originally, what I was going to do was rank the albums I know about. But after talking with Jim here, we agreed that we were going to be talking about the various live recordings that have been released from 1973 up to 2007 and give you our perspective on these albums in terms of the history of the albums, the music that's been included on said albums, the quality of the recordings that have been done for the albums, and basically just shoot the shit about it. Really, just give you our general feedback on it.
That's what I'm here for. Sounds
There
good.
you go. There you go. He admitted it, and he's here to shoot the shit. Anyways, ladies and gentlemen,
On this topic, at least.
yes, for this topic at least. Now, Genesis, their first live release was called Genesis Live. Originally released in 1973. The genesis of that recording was to be pardon the pun, was to be a live FM broadcast that was recorded for the King Biscuit Flower Hour, which was a rock music program that aired in the U.S. in the late 60s into the 70s, featuring all of the major musical acts of the time. Okay. It had since been, and just to give you a bit of history on Genesis Live, it had been released through Charisma and through Buddha Records, Charisma in the UK and Buddha Records originally in the US. There was one proviso though. Peter Gabriel was not happy with the recordings, with the sound quality of the recording for Genesis Live. And he signed off in the agreement to release Genesis Live with the condition that it would not be released in the US because he felt that the material by the time it was released was older. And at the time they were working on selling England by the pound. And they said, sure, we agree, we are not going to release it in the US. Well, big surprise. The record company and management decided to release it in the US, much to Peter Gabriel's chagrin. They have since, after that, had released 4 other releases. So after Genesis Live, you had Seconds Out from 1977. You had Genesis 3 Sides Live. That's another soap opera all in itself that we will get into. You
Yes.
have The Way We Walk Live, which was unceremoniously or loosely dubbed the Dance Tour from 1992, which I was very privileged to have seen, having third row floors for the show. And you have Live Over Europe, which was released in 2007. Now, what we're going to do is talk about each release and our opinion on them in terms of the quality, music, etc. So, Jim, how did you first find out about these albums? Like, in terms of Genesis Live and stuff? Like, did you search them out? Did you, how did you get into them really overall?
Well, I joined the Genesis bandwagon at Abacab, so my path, so that was 1981. I was 16 years old. So my path was a straight line from face value, right over to Abacab because they were released, I think, in the same calendar year, if memory
Yeah,
serves me right.
yeah.
Before that, I had heard Misunderstanding on the radio and Follow You, Follow Me, and I liked it, but it's only when I had sort of dug into Abacab that I sort of that I sort of got Genesis more. Now I say, get Genesis, and people are arguing with me, saying, you jerk, you have no idea what Genesis is about. And I get those arguments because you get into the whole, semi-political nature of, oh, that isn't Genesis anymore. And I'm sure we'll kind of touch on all that stuff as we go through it. Um,
Mhm,
so
mhm.
so it was a very quick path from Abacab to Three Sides Live. um, Around the time of the Shapes album, um, I was introduced to Genesis Live, the 73 release, which was their first live album. And then shortly after that, Seconds Out. And then I've been kind of keeping a pace with all the Genesis records since then. So that was my entry into that.
Mhm, mhm. Okay, well, my entry into Genesis was um Duke Turn It On Again a year before, which was an FM radio staple when it came out. And of course, that again, that album was also uh designated as not Genesis. Like, and this is another, see, this is what I love about working with Jim. We go into tangents, ladies and gentlemen. And we can get into another tangent about whether or not Genesis is Genesis without Peter Gabriel or not, because just a bit of a backtrack here. Peter Gabriel left at the end of the tour for The Lamb Lies Down on Broadway due to internal conflicts within the band. And, there have been rumors that Phil Collins wanted to push him out because he wanted to become lead vocalist. Well, Peter Gabriel has gone on record and saying that is complete and utter bullshit.
Yeah, I had never heard that one.
I did, yes, a lot.
Wow.
And there's been rumors, there's been rhetoric about, Genesis without Peter Gabriel is Genesis light. You know what? Again, utter bullshit. But that's just my humble opinion. Um, so I first heard of Genesis again, and I do remember hearing as an 8-year-old hearing Follow You, Follow Me on the radio. Okay. Uh, so that's how far back I go. I wasn't really aware of them being Genesis, of actually who the band was.
Right.
And my first listen to Genesis Three Sides Live, sorry, was in 1992.
Really? That long?
Yeah, yeah. I'll give you a bit of a background. Um, I went out one day with my mom's credit card, with her permission, by the way, um,
Good idea.
to she, oh yeah, no, definitely. Um, Basically, what happened was we struck up an agreement, and she said, "Here, take my, go to a record store, go to HMV, pick out an album that you want, and have them put it on hold for me, and I'll go the next day and go pick it up for you." Well, she came back the next day with the entire catalog.
Okay.
We're talking Foxtrot, we're talking Nursery Crime, we're talking Trespass, we're talking everything, and including Genesis three sides live. So when I, and but what I didn't like about Three Sides Live was it was actually Three Sides Live. You know what I mean?
Okay. It was the fourth side with the studio
Yes,
leftovers. Okay.
yes. That it was the international release. That's what I didn't like about it. I want the full Megillah. If you're going to release a live album and you
Mhm.
have material that is supposed to be released, release the entire album, okay? That you're supposed to release. So I really wasn't a fan of the quality of that album, the sound quality or the music on the album, just the way it was recorded, I guess.
Right.
But that was the first time I really listened to a Genesis live album. I had no idea that Second Sound existed. I had no idea that Phil Collins was their drummer from 71 on. I had no idea the scope and the history that he had with the band. I really had no idea,
Right.
right?
Right.
Um, so let's tackle this um chronologically.
All right.
What were your thoughts of the first time you heard Genesis live?
Well, yeah, I first heard Genesis live when a friend gave it to me as a gift around around the time of the Shapes album. So this would have been 84 or so, and I hadn't heard any of the old stuff before. And I wondered if this friend somehow um, didn't understand what I liked, or didn't, or was playing some sort of cruel joke to me, because this is certainly, you know, not quite 180 degrees
Mhm.
from, Abacab, Shapes, Three Sides Live, but it's pretty darn far. And it took
Mhm.
me a long time to get into it. I appreciated it for what it was, and I recognized the skill and the drama that's there. But it was just kind of a shock to the system. Even just looking at the cover, I'm like, what, what is this? The dude with the weird triangle hat, all over his head, this big triangle helmet, his black
Mhm.
cloak and whatnot. Um, Today I love it. Um, I, um, I wish that they had taken the opportunity when they did the remastering of the catalog, um, the most recent remastering, so that would have been like 2007 or 5 or whatever that was, when
7, yeah.
they yeah, when they appended a whole bunch of like unrelated studio tracks to the end of Genesis Live. I wish that they had gone back and tackled the tape that has Suppers Ready, because it's out there. I mean, this was, you were talking about it being recorded for radio, and yeah, back then they were distributing these radio shows on vinyl.
Yeah.
And, there's a vinyl that exists you know, of Genesis Live, and one whole side of it is Peter doing Supper's Ready. Peter and the rest of the band, of course. Um,
Hmm.
and I think that was a real missed opportunity in the Genesis camp to sort of tackle that and put Genesis Live not only in its proper running order, but also put it in put out the most complete release possible, for that time frame.
Hmm.
I
Hmm.
mean, even if they had, what they did with the Genesis Live box, or the re-releases around that time, excuse me, is that, they put out the, like Nursery Crime, you had the remastered CD, and then there was a DVD that came along with it. And the DVD was the 5.1 version of the album, and
Hmm.
whatever little video nuggets they can put on there. And there was some cool stuff on there, the
Yeah.
band doing, I think, Fountain of Salmassus, um, maybe Twilight Alehouse. It escapes my memory right now, but there's, 3 or 4 tracks. Maybe the only one that appeared on Genesis Live is the musical box. But anyway, even taking those things, because they clearly existed at the time, they had their
Mhm.
hands on the tapes, and tarting them up and putting it on the release, again, would have made for a more comprehensive and, um, I'll call it a fan-friendly package that I think any fan would not have argued about showing out. Oh, I got to pay $12 again for this, but look what you
Yeah.
get.
Yeah. No,
So,
yeah.
so
Yeah.
so yeah, I'm a fan of the Genesis Live album, and Yeah, I still always laugh at, that was an unaccompanied bass pedal solo from Michael Rutherford.
Yeah, yeah,
I always
yeah,
giggle at that.
yeah. Well, what? Yeah, yeah. Because if I remember correctly, and I've seen these documentaries on YouTube, when they
Mhm.
remastered the album, the CDs, um, and released them as double discs, that each CD, each studio album had an accompanying DVD with a documentary on it for that
Yep,
time
yep.
period, for the recording of those albums. To me, that's a complete package,
Yeah.
right?
Mhm.
It's a complete package for any Genesis fanatic or fanatic. That's gold. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? That is gold. So when I'm reading, because again, I did that video on the live album spotlight, that there is a version of Supper's Ready from that performance, from that recording that is available. And they didn't include it on the album, even if it was just a one-sided album, like a one-sided disc, then you really would have had three sides live
Yes, exactly.
for that show, for that recording. So
Yeah.
I don't understand why they would not include it on Genesis Live. Like it doesn't make any sense to me, right? Um,
Yeah. And part of that, if you go back to 1973, um, think about it. They weren't huge then.
you know,
They were beginning to, get an audience in Italy. They hadn't even, I don't even think they'd even played a gig in the US yet. I think they only did with Selling England. I think that was their first US stop, if memory serves right. But there's an economic principle in there too, where it's like, okay, if you were a record company and you were saying, okay, it would cost me another dollar or whatever to press, one side of vinyl, it's going to make it a 2 album set, but I'm going to have to charge, $3 more in order to make my money back. What's the break even, rationale there?
well, I mean, yeah, and this album, Genesis 5, was uh, released under like a marked down price
Yes,
campaign
right.
for, to be sold in stores like Woolworths and stuff like that, in stores like that, right? So
Yeah.
it was sort of marked down in terms of where it was going to be made available. I just think, again, it just comes down to, if you're going to do a performance, if the performance is good enough that you're going to have it floating around in the ether out there, like, on I guess bootleg versions, why not just take take the recording, take the tapes, clean it up if it needs to be cleaned up, and just
Right.
release it as part of the album. I don't get that.
Especially, yeah, especially in, the days where CDs were there with bonus tracks and the reissue. And again, the 2007 campaign was perfect. They squandered an opportunity to do right by the fans. And my guess is that that's a topic that's going to come up a lot as we talk.
Oh yeah. Oh
Harumph.
yeah. Oh yeah. No, no, no. But I digress. Um, we
And
got
I'm right with you, man. I
we
think
got
I think
time
this
for that.
conversation will have a lot of digressions in it because the treatment of the Genesis Live catalog, to me, sorry, Tony Banks, deserves better. One man's opinion.
But we're not one to gossip, so you didn't hear that from us, right? I mean, it's just
No.
um yeah, there has been, in a little side note, there has been references and comments out there that Genesis is in fact Tony Banks, and Tony Banks is in fact Genesis. Um, kicking out Steve Hackett, but I'm not, or forcing out Steve Hackett. I'm not one to gossip again, but we won't get into that. But I don't know. I mean, but we'll carry on. Now, in
Yes.
terms of the years of release on this set here, as I hold this up again. On this set, okay, you also have a bonus performance of Live at the Rainbow 1973. And if my notes are correct, this was recorded on October the 20th, 1973 at the Rainbow in London. Okay.
Mhm.
Now, looking at the track list here, right? And the only way you can get this Rainbow concert is through the Genesis Live 73 to 07 box set. The track listing,
Well,
am I wrong?
almost, almost,
Okay.
because Archive 1 has some of these tracks.
Okay, that's
And
right.
again, this is more the frustrating world of how Genesis sort of treated its live releases. So yeah, so Archive 1 has Dancing with the Moonlit Night, Firth of Fifth, More Fool Me, and Supper's Ready, if my notes are right on
Okay.
this.
Okay.
Um,
And yeah, and yes, I failed to mention that yes, Archive 67 to 75, the 4 disc set on disc 3 does have those live tracks. My bad. However, my copy that I got on Discogs is missing disc number 3. But I digress.
oh no.
I digress. But yeah, you're right. Okay, my fault. You're right. You're right.
No worries. I'm not keeping score.
Sure, you're not. Okay, check one. Okay, he made one mistake. Okay, there you go. There you go. There you go. Everyone's against me.
You're not paranoid. No.
No. What's that? No problem. Now, in listening to Genesis Live and the Live at the Rainbow set in, at concerts in terms of comparison of sound, etc. How do I put this? Which do you like better in terms of the performances?
Oh, you mean comparing Genesis Live to Live at the Rainbow?
Yeah, in terms of my question is, which to you best represents Genesis of that time period?
I have to say that I find Genesis Live to be a better performed album. I think, I mean, there's like no major clams or anything in Live at the Rainbow, but I hear these little things in there that are just like, oh man, that's, kind of annoying, or you can hear sort of a lack of energy and, in different tunes here or there.
Okay.
But I'll be the first to admit that my standard is probably a little too high on this. Certainly the fact that Live of the Rainbow has Battle of Epping Forest and More Fool Me and Dancing with the Moonlit Night and stuff like that is great to have as a Genesis fan. And I will not begrudge Genesis putting this stuff out, and I'm like, please, more. Let's take more of this. Um, um, yeah, I mean, how about you? Where are you on that front?
I tend to think that Live at the Rainbow is a better performance.
Mm-hmm.
I should point out that the Live at the Rainbow concert, the CD, it comes in CD and DVD. Each disc in the live set, box set of 73 to 07 come with they come in CD form and DVD audio form. Yeah, I believe it's DVD audio form. What I don't like, what I don't understand what they did was on the CD there's 7 tracks, and on the Live at the Rainbow, and on the DVD form there's 9 tracks.
Right.
So it's
More
like
annoyingness.
what are you doing? Like, why are you playing with the fans here? I mean,
Right. And
you know,
it's they're leaving out major tracks. Watcher of the Skies was
Mhm.
left out, and
Yeah.
the musical box. Now, my theory, and I think this bears some, I think this bears out, is that I, I I think Tony is kind of in charge of the Genesis catalog, and I've read interviews where Mike and Phil will say, if Tony likes it, it's going to be, it gets out there. So he's kind of we'll call it the executor of the estate, for lack of a better term. But
Okay, that's very
it's fair.
generous. Yeah.
It,
That's
it goes through him. And if you look at the live albums, um, he's not a fan of repetition. It's almost like he says, well, we've put Watcher of the Skies out there once, who needs it again?
okay.
There's a couple of exceptions, like Afterglow is on Seconds Out, and then it's tagged onto the medley of Three Sides Live.
Yeah.
Obviously, if you include the old medley in The Way We Walk Live, you've got everything in that medley has been released before, but they
Yeah.
needed to do the right thing to put the medley on there. So there's exceptions, but generally, I think that's the principle that he operates
Hmm.
under. So, and I guess in a way, knowing that that's his, operating procedure, can
Yeah.
kind of be thankful of it, saying, well, at least you put Cinema Show, I Know What I Like, Firth of Fifth, and Supper's Ready on there at all.
Hmm.
But, it's still, I'm not sure when the appropriate time to talk about this is, but it still, grates on me that there's just missed opportunity after missed opportunity in the Genesis catalog.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I
No,
I
it's
like
true.
the Live at the Rainbow. I wish it was more available, through streaming services and on YouTube, and that they would put it out there, and you could,
It is
I was
available.
gonna
Sorry.
say,
It
I'm
is
sorry.
available on YouTube.
Okay, all right.
Yes. Yeah. No, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, you're good. Go ahead.
I
My thought
just,
was finished.
okay, my apologies. I just think that the performance at the Rainbow, if this is the entire performance, why not put it on Genesis Live? Like, do you know what I mean? Why not include everything? And the reason why I like Live at the Rainbow more is that it is the entire performance. Do you know what I mean? Seemingly
Yeah,
the entire performance. Like I don't want to find out like 5 years down the road that there are these tracks floating out there, and that you have to get this in order to get this, and then you're just repeating yourself again over and over again, right? So
right,
I
right.
just I just feel that you know this is going to leak into our discussion on live albums, which is coming up, ladies and gentlemen, very soon.
Yes,
Like, give me give me the entire performance.
right.
You
And
know?
in this age of streaming
Yeah.
and, bands doing direct downloads from their own sites, there's no reason other than just um uh I was going to say maniacal curation, but I don't know if it's maniacal. I'll just call it your own opinion and curation of your catalog to take that stuff back, to kind of hold it back. And there's
Mhm.
other, there's economic realities, about it too. But you could partner with other sites that do down, like nugs.net. I mean, Genesis could do a partnership with Nugs and put out, a complete show from the 76 tour. Please, please, please.
Mhm. If you're
Ad
watching,
infinitum, you
yes,
get the idea.
yeah. If you're watching, guys, please. uh, you know, yeah. I mean, speaking as a fan of Queen, I would love to get a proper recording of one of the jazz tour shows,
Mm-hmm.
like everything. Not, and I want to hear Mustafa in its entirety. I want to hear If You Can Beat Him, I want to hear those songs. I want to hear what it properly done, like no bootlegs. I want to hear exactly what you did that night as a fan, and and enjoy it. So again, to me, the Live at the Rainbow 73 to me seems one of the more complete performances from that time frame. You
Right.
know, in my very humble opinion. Now we
And
move.
and
Sorry.
plus, if did they also film that one? Is that the one that's in the movie box?
I do believe there are excerpts, like certain performances from that show. I don't believe that it's a complete performance. If it is,
Okay.
I'll look up the movie box and get it myself again, and just
Yeah.
for that reason alone. But I really don't know if it's if it's a complete performance, which it would be a shame if it isn't. But
Right. Well, and I know that there's stuff out there, like there's stuff from Shepperton Studios from 73. I believe there's a footage from the two songs they did on the Midnight Special that are out on YouTube, and that looks, phenomenal. Um, and it's great to see the theatrical Genesis, represented like that. I just wish it could have been done, better, and
Mhm.
or more complete, especially now. So we're in the middle of 2024. I'm going to go on a tangent. Watch me. So we're in
Go
the middle
for
of
it.
2024. 50 years ago is when The Lamb was released.
Mhm.
Now, it is high time that there was sort of a proper, to use the phrase, I know it's been tossed around, a proper Dog's Bollocks edition of The Lamb Lies Down on Broadway, which would have demos, the full album, live show, whatever they have, whatever film that survives. I mean, I know the stuff's out there. Um, Again, this would be an opportunity, um, that would not be a cash grab, because you've got fans who really, really want this stuff. And it's, a pivotal time that just can't be recreated. I mean, they talked about it. They tried to. I mean, the original 2007 tour, that was, the Turn It On Again tour, the original idea from that was, let's go out and do the Lamb again. And it was, Pete and Steve and Phil, Mike, and Tony. And it's, let's do that. And, they talked about it and they met about it and they started kind of throwing some ideas around. And Pete just kind of said at the end of the day, no, that's not what I really want to do.
Because
And then
I
Steve
know.
wasn't interested. And then that's how the Turn It On Again tour, came about from that.
Yeah, yeah. The original idea was to do that, and I also heard that I don't know if this was done afterwards or mentioned afterwards, or again to do the show in its entirety again. But Tony Banks also said that he really wasn't into doing it again.
Okay. Yeah,
To go out
I
and do,
hadn't heard that.
yeah, yeah, that would have been a good idea. But yeah, the original idea was to do for the Turn It On Again tour was to do the Lamb in its entirety.
Hmm.
And we'll get into that with Live Over Europe because there's a lot of stuff that went on behind the scenes that was documented. I have it on DVD, guys.
Okay,
Uh,
you know more than I do. You got more of the behind the
officially,
scenes than
yeah,
I.
it's officially documented. Um, you know what? Let's get it out there. For the Turn It On Again tour, for the Live Over Europe, that would eventually become on CD Live Over Europe, and When in Rome, the
When in
DVD,
Rome, yeah.
which I have both of. Um, it was Phil Collins that basically crapped on a lot of the ideas that they were doing.
Okay.
And he butted heads quite a bit with Tony Banks during the rehearsals.
Okay. This is all new
And
to me, so the floor is yours. Go for it.
well, thank you, kind sir. He is so polite, ladies and gentlemen. Um, yeah,
I'm
yeah.
just stating a fact, brother.
Don't look behind you. No, it's true. No, during the documentary portion of the When in Rome concert release, it's them rehearsing for the tour, and Phil Collins was getting frustrated because he was losing his hearing, number one, and you couldn't pick up the cues for the songs during rehearsal. And at one point, he got really frustrated because of his drumming ability. And
Right.
he walked off and like threw a fit and was throwing his sticks like at the walls and stuff. And Daryl Sturmer said to the interviewer, all due respect, Chester and I play all the time. They haven't played together in years, so their chops aren't up to the quality that ours are. And there was one point where they were going to do Domino in the Glow of the Night, part 1 and 2. And you know how there's that section where Domino part 2 comes in, where it's
Mhm.
the drums and the keyboards that come in.
Yeah. Dum, 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 dum,
Yeah,
dum.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Well, Phil Collins wanted to skip that dun dun dun, that intro and just go into
Huh.
the vocals. And
Okay.
Tony's like, "Well, what are you talking about? Like we're rehearsing this. It's going to be done in its entirety." And goes, "Well, that intro on part 2 is boring. I don't want to do it." And Tony goes, "Well, that's what we're doing. That's what you agreed on, and that's what we're doing. And that's why we have rehearsals, so we can come up with something that isn't boring." Like they butted heads a
Sure.
lot, a lot.
Hmm.
Um, and I agree. I mean, and to me, that as a fan, when I
Mhm.
see that, when I know that behind the scenes, you're not really into being there,
Mhm.
why am I going to shell out good money for what you are knowingly doing as a crap performance or as a phoning it in performance? That
Right.
that's my rant. You know what I mean?
So yeah, I did not know all that. I certainly didn't know that going into it because I did go to one of the 2007 shows.
Yeah,
That was and I was happy that I did. It's like, okay, I think this is my last chance to go see Genesis, and I was, like I said, I was happy that I did it.
mhm,
It certainly wasn't the show I wanted it to be, but there were some great surprises in there. It's like once the set list rumors started coming out of Europe of what they're playing, I'm like, okay, I can deal with a substantial portion of Duke. I embrace the fact that you're doing ripples. Love that.
mhm.
Do I wish they put, some Abacab in there? Yeah.
Yeah,
But do I wish they would have done something older? I mean, I think at one point I had read that they were working on doing a full version of Cinema Show, with the acoustic guitar intros, the whole thing.
yeah,
But they dropped it for, I don't know, maybe it was another one of those reasons of like, they're just out of practice. They haven't been playing it, for
mhm,
forever. And so it
mhm.
just never fell together. I don't know. I don't know what sort of determines the set list.
Yeah,
I'm sure a lot of it though has to do with what currently speaks to them in the moment. And,
yeah, yeah.
if they're not feeling if they're not feeling Return of the Giant Hogweek, they're not going to do
Well,
it.
exactly. But well, let's get back to the release schedule here. So
Okay.
after Genesis Live and Live at the Rainbow 73, you have Seconds Out, released, October 14th, 1977, produced by Dave Henschel and Genesis. Um, Now, what is your history with this album? Because I know we talked off camera about it and how you feel about it. What is your
Yeah.
history with this album?
My history is that I was introduced to it in college um, by someone who was a fan of older Genesis. And I said, "Oh, I'm a Genesis fan." He's like, "Oh, what do you like?" Da, 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 da. And I think I'm like, "Yeah, Abacab and Duke and whatnot." And he's like, "Well, I think you really need to kind of hear Genesis from a few years earlier than that." and I think you'll have your head blown off your body. And he, you know, pulled his vinyl copy of Seconds Out off the shelf. I said, "Oh, okay, thanks, man. I look forward to this." Took it up to my dorm room, put it on the turntable, and for the next, you know, hour and a half or more, I was just completely blown away. I mean, to me, you know, I have broken it down like follows. You know, side one is really good.
Mhm.
Side two is fantastic. Side three, which is All Supper's Ready, is just mind blowing.
Mhm.
And the final side, side four, is just devastatingly brilliant. It's just this album to me that's like the more you move through it, the better it gets. They sequence that thing, you know, beautifully. Um,
Mhm.
and you know, we've so that was my introduction to Seconds Out is a kind fan that said, "Dude, you need your head opened up," and boy, was it opened.
Mhm.
Um, you know, I did not have the experience of the hearing all those Gabriel compositions in their original settings, you know, except for
Mhm.
hearing the Lamb on radio and
Mhm.
things like that.
Mhm.
But just to hear it performed with a band that was that tight and with a production by Henschel that was that clean.
And
I mean, it's one of
concise.
the best sounding live albums that that I have in my collection.
Mhm.
I love it from a performance and a production standpoint. It's pretty dang peerless. And but again, with the benefit of hindsight, I'm like, oh, it's another case of missed opportunities. If only they da 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 da. But again, thinking about it at the time, I mean, as a consumer, I'm pretty damn happy with, you know, if I, you know, walked home with that two album package under my arm, you know, again, that's like, you know, 90 plus minutes of mind-blowing music. You know,
93 minutes to be exact. Yes.
yeah, they did a fantastic job of putting that together, sequencing it, producing it. And,
Mhm.
you know, as an older fan with more mileage, you know, I still wish that,
That's a polite way to put it. Long. Yeah.
yes, yes. I still wish they had done more with it. But again, for the, I sound just like such a, not a shill, but, you know, for the product that it is, I
Mhm.
think it does the job damn well.
Yeah. Um,
It changed it's one of those signposts that changed my musical life.
yeah.
I love that album, you know,
Yeah.
that
No,
much.
I mean, this album affected you like Queen Live Killers affected me when I heard it as a 12-year-old
Hmm.
for the first time. I'll tell you my history. And ladies and gentlemen, we did not discuss our favorite albums before we started, like about live albums of Genesis before we started taping this. For me, my brother-in-law showed me a copy of Seconds Out because he was saying to me, you know, Phil Collins was in Genesis. I'm like way back in the day. I'm like, no, he wasn't. Like, you know. And he showed me a shot of Phil Collins with the beard and like from the cover, the inside cover. I'm like, no. And he's like, Armando, look. Okay, Muriel, you're fine. I understand. Okay, I believe you. Um, I love this album. I think it's fantastic. This album also did, had its moments of drama at the time around the release of the album because at this point Steve Hackett left the band during the mixing stages of the album, and Phil Collins was the last one to find out that Steve Hackett was no longer in the band. Um, I think that from a production standpoint, it is flawless. It is
Yep.
Genesis at their peak. in terms of live performances, and obviously these performances were called from different performances. I think the bulk of the performances for Seconds Out were performed at the Palais des Sports in Paris,
Yeah.
a venue which is no longer in existence. Many artists performed at the Palais des Sports. Queen, King Crimson, Frank Zappa, you know, you name them. I think that from the set list, it's a good representation of where they were musically at that point in time.
Mhm.
From say, you know, A Trick of the Tail on. I do think, I mean, when they go into Supper's Ready and all you hear is Colin say, Supper's ready. You know, just the way he says it, just very sort of ominous, you know? And
Mhm.
it's like, ladies and gentlemen, strap yourselves in because you're about to go on a ride. And it's done, in my very humble opinion, to perfection. You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
Yeah.
Masterfully done, just amazing.
This was the first version of Supper's Ready I had heard. I had heard
Yeah,
of it,
yeah,
but I had never heard the tune. And yeah, like I said, my mind was blown.
yeah, yeah,
Everything from Apocalypse 9/8 on is just still, gives me
yeah.
goosebumps.
And you know, I think again, I mean, it encompasses a pocket of time that cannot be duplicated in terms of their live shows. I think
Right.
that they were firing on all cylinders. I mean, you know, you have, you know, it starts off with Squonk, you know, um, Squonk, and then Carpet Crawlers and Robbery, Assault and Battery. I mean, come on, you know what I mean? And Firth the Fifth, a guitar solo that blows your head off. I mean, come on, you know what I mean? Then you
That's
have,
so beautifully composed. Yeah.
you know, I Know What I Like in Your Wardrobe, The Lamb Lies Down on Broadway, the musical box, closing section. Okay, it's a closing section. Supper's Ready in its entirety. Side three. Okay. Then you have Cinema Show, Dance on a Volcano, Los Sendos. I mean, give me a break. I mean, like,
Yeah. So just a point on side four. I was at a friend's house this weekend who happens to be an audiophile,
mm,
who happens to have the recently redone half-speed master version of Seconds Out that came out of Abbey Road from a couple of years ago.
oh, sweet
And
Jesus. Okay.
and we put it on the turntable and listened to side four. And, from the, you know, interlocking 12 strings through Bruford and Phil just going apeshit on the drums through, the the drum duet with Phil and Chester going into Los Endos. Um, it's it's just the best.
The piece de resistance. I mean,
Pretty much, as them Frenchies would say, yes, yes.
as if
It cannot.
Frenchies would say, okay.
I'm tired. It's hot.
I understand. I understand. I understand. It's hot here too, guys. No, I completely get it. I completely get it. No, it's a fantastic snapshot of where they were live at that point in time. They were firing on all cylinders. They were under, and let me ask you this question. Do you feel, and Gabriel doesn't agree with this summation, but do you feel that Genesis, after Gabriel left, is considered Genesis light?
No, not at all.
Okay.
That comes later.
And we'll get into that right away, ladies and gentlemen.
Well, yeah, but before we leave the world of Seconds Out,
No, exactly. No, we're not leaving yet. We're still at the back
okay,
door. We're not leaving the back. We're not going out the back door yet. We're into the house. We're entering just about the back, going out the back door, but we're not done with that yet. What were you gonna say?
okay. Oh, So Cinema Show, I mentioned that, where Phil and Bill Bruford are going. I think the word I used was apeshit, and they
Ape shit.
are. Um, there's not a lot that's been officially released from the tour, the Trick of the Tail tour that Bruford was the drummer on. I mean, you've got Cinema Show, you've got the It Watcher of the Skies, Closer, that was on, the Fourth Side Live, and then you've got Entangled that was on Archive 2. Those are the only official bits of audio that are out there. But you know, collectors in the realm know that those shows are just stellar because you've got Bruford playing on everything, the full version of Dance on a Volcano, the lamb casserole medley, as Phil called it.
Okay.
Firth of Fifth, White Mountain was performed on that tour.
Oh, from Trespass. Holy shit.
Yeah. Supper's Ready, the full version of Los Endos. Those are some of the standouts there. And again, I put this in the missed opportunity category, that, here's a very pivotal moment from Genesis history that clearly, when you listen to Cinema Show, it's not some Cinema Show from Seconds Out. It's not some kind of second banana or afterthought. It is at a quality that stands with the rest of the Seconds Out material.
Yeah.
And, again, I think Genesis would not be doing a cash grab if they did a proper release from the 76 tour. In fact, I wish I was looking for an opportunity to put this in there. They should
Mhm.
take a page from the Jethro Tull book
Book.
about doing re-releases and how they package them, how they put them together. Because Tull has done an amazing job of not
Phenomenal.
only
Yeah.
the updated mixing but faithful, and the remastering, and then the demos, and then the live discs, the live material that's there. Again, it wouldn't be a cash grab. It would be something that fans would be ecstatic to have the opportunity to sort of get in their hands. And maybe Genesis doesn't want to go that far. Maybe they're kind of embarrassed about the demos and whatnot, and don't think it properly represents what the band is. And I would get that. That's fine. But again, there is a live. They have the tapes.
So
They can put this stuff out there if they choose to.
you do know that you do know for a fact that they have these live recordings, and that if they took the time and gave the tapes to, say, Steven Wilson, and did a proper box set of Seconds Out, that they could release a proper box set version of Seconds Out.
Yes. Or they could do, more proper box sets of, Trick of the Tail and Wind and Weathering. So I'm
Okay.
just having a quick look here. So I'm on Wikipedia as we speak here, looking at the entrance for Seconds Out. It says one track, The Cinema Show, was recorded at the Apollo in Glasgow
That's
on
right.
July 9th during the 76 tour.
Yeah.
This tour featured Bill Bruford on drums, mixes of Firth of Fifth, Los Endos, I Know What I Like in Your Wardrobe, and White Mountain were produced but scrapped.
Mhm.
So they've got the tapes and they could do it,
Mhm.
provided the tapes haven't deteriorated for some
Over
reason.
time. Yeah. Over
But
time.
yeah,
No, I know. It's frustrating when you know that they're there, but you can't get access to them as a fan, or they won't
right.
make it available, make the tapes or the songs available, those versions available to the fans. It is frustrating.
And there's also the history. It should be acknowledged that I think Tony and Mike both kind of feel like Bill was not a good fit for Genesis. And I think Bill even admits this as well, because in that period of his life, and this is my paraphrasing Bill Bruford here,
Mhm.
he's saying, I really was interested in not being a timekeeper. I didn't
Yes.
want to play the same thing twice, let alone the same thing once. He wanted to mess with it. He wanted to play around the rhythms. And in something like Cinema Show, when he does that, again, I was used to hearing the version off Three Sides Live. When I heard the version, the instrumental section of it from Seconds Out, I'm like, God, what is this? And I could hear what Bill was bringing to it, and it's just magnificent and it's fabulous. The collector's tapes that are out there from the tour, you could hear Bill just bring magic into a lot of these tunes. But he himself said, I was a bad boy. I didn't like to hit the cues. And a lot of Genesis music kind of depends on that and drives
This,
on it at certain points.
yeah, and Phil Collins has said in terms of the drumming, it's not just keeping time, it's also the style in which you play, in terms of the composition, in terms of the arrangement. It's how there's a certain way that you have to play the drums, and you also have to keep time as well. So it takes
Yes.
a certain drummer to be able to do that, which I do believe they found in Chester Thompson.
Oh, Chester was what a gift. What a gift from God
Phenomenal.
Chester Thompson
Phen-
was.
Phenomenal. I mean, just brilliant. I mean, working with Weather Report and Frank Zappa.
Frank Zappa's greatest live band.
You're back.
You're back. You're back now too.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we'll fix that in the edit.
We will
There
fix
we
that in the
go.
edit.
But yeah,
But
no,
yeah, Chester Thompson was just an amazing gift to Genesis for someone who had the chops and the feel to just really drive that stuff forward.
very much so. Very much so. So, ladies and gentlemen, we have come to, in terms of the chronological order of the live albums, we have come to Three Sides Live. Released June 4th, 1982, produced by Genesis. What to say about this album?
You go first. You usually hand the baton to me first. Please go first.
Well, you are so generous to hand the baton to me.
It's your show. I am the invited guest.
Yes,
so
you are an integral part of this show. You really are.
Very kind.
My mama brought me up right. There we go.
Go, Mom.
Miss you, mama. What to say about this album? The version I first heard of this album was the international release, where you had the three sides of performances, with the fourth side being the studio recordings of Paper Late, Evidence of Autumn, Open Window, I believe was on there as well.
Open Door.
Open Door, sorry. I know something was open.
Door, window,
yeah,
whatever.
Barnyard, whatever. It didn't, I mean,
close the barn door, Ethel.
Exactly. You land the chickens out. No, I'm serious. I really could not get behind this album when I first heard it. First of all, the track list.
You heard it in 92? Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. All right.
The track listing starts off with Turn It On Again. And to me, this version of Turn It On Again is not a good version of it. I'm sorry. Then I found out that there is a fourth side live.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And I'm thinking, and I gotta say, it was released in the UK as with the fourth side on it. The international release had, the fourth side, which was the studio recordings. My first question is, what the hell were you thinking? Like, literally. I mean, like,
well, I know what they were thinking. I bet I could step into their brains and tell you what they were thinking.
And those recordings, that fourth side of studio recordings, those songs were featured on, I believe there was 2 EPs. Spot the Pigeon.
And
Am I
No,
wrong? Correct me.
the 3x3,
3x3. Yeah, I was gonna say
and
that.
then Evidence of Autumn and Open Door were B-sides to
Okay.
singles from Duke.
Okay. Okay. So, all right. I sit corrected. Well, I can't stand. I sit corrected. But I mean,
You do you.
you do you. But I mean, why are you doing this? Like, if there's recordings of a full live performance, or you have
Yep.
enough material that gives you four sides of an album that is live, why not release it? I'm sorry, I'm pinching myself.
Be-
But
because
there you go.
because Phil Collins was on the trajectory upwards. And so material that fit into the Phil Collins zone would be more readily accepted in the marketplace. People would be like, "Oh, Paper Late, that's a pretty grooving song." And it is.
Hmm.
I mean, it's got a great groove, it's got a great horn chart to it. It really sounded great coming out of the radio. Um, I
It's
think
basically, yeah, it follows in the vein of No Reply at All.
yes, it is from that template, but it still works. It works for me. I think that the other song, sorry, the second song, You Might Recall, that's one of my favorite Genesis songs. It just
Okay.
has to do with the guitar figure on it. I just think it's um well, that's part of it, is that again, it's very unique to a Genesis song. And I just like the way the verses move and the chorus. I mean, it's just structurally, it's a fantastic piece of music. And I was, I would probably like it if it had, Taylor Swift or Foo Fighters or something attached to it. It's just a great song. It's well
Okay.
composed, and I like that. Um, but I think it was, you know, Armando, the dictates of the marketplace that said, give me more Genesis like this. And the fact that those tracks hadn't been released widely outside of the UK, that was all the record company needed to, push more product. And I'm not trying
Mhm.
to be an apologist
No, no,
for the
no.
marketplace. I'm just trying to say that's probably what was in their head.
Fair enough. Fair enough. I just think that when I first saw that this album actually had a fourth, side of live material,
Yeah.
I felt as a fan, I felt cheated.
Yeah. Well, that's really funny because I think it all depends on perspective. Because like I was
Mhm.
saying, I came into Genesis at the time of Abacab.
Mhm.
So when I saw Three Sides live at the Warehouse Records or wherever it was, I picked it up, and on the rack, actually next to it, they had the UK version as well, and it was labeled, UK import next to it. And I, looked at that and I'm like, okay, so, what's so special about this? And I looked and I saw, that there were these 3 tracks on side 4 that were different from the 5 tracks that was on the normal version of Three Sides Live. And I'm like, what crap is this?
So you're talking about one for the Vine, the Fountain of Salmacis, and If from Watcher of the Skies.
Yes, I am talking about that. And if I could go back in time and kick my 17-year-old self in the ass, I would, because I just didn't know. I was
Yeah.
ignorant. It was later in college where someone said, "Oh, you haven't heard the Fourth Side live?" And again, they let me borrow it, and I'm just like, "Oh my God, this is,
What am I
of
missing? Yeah.
yeah, absolutely." And those performances, you know, one for the Vine, you know, it just makes the Wind and Wuthering version seem like it was just, in daycare. There's just a
Hmm.
power in the live version that's, nowhere present on the studio. Now, the one for the Vine was recorded in 80, so they've had, 3 tours to kind of mess with it and perfect it, and they did. It's phenomenal.
What?
Fe-
Just sorry, just a quick question. That performance of One for the Vine, was that taken from the Lyceum performance?
I think so. I think it was one of the Lyceum shows.
Oh, bloody hell. Oh my God. Okay, I get it now.
Yeah.
You just smashed it into perspective for me. I mean,
Right.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, the
That was
Lyceum
missing
shows are, again, we could do a whole episode on Genesis, Tony, you're stupid for not releasing the full Lyceum show out there.
to be continued. I mean, come on. I mean, that Lyceum performance,
2 nights. They're both outstanding.
I think it's May 10th and 11th, 1980 at the
Yep.
Lyceum Theater.
Which is it's a
Amazing.
tiny little club.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's so intimate. But I digress. I mean, holy shit.
Yeah. One for the Vine from 1980, Fountain
Yeah.
of Salmacis from 78, which was the Nebworth Festival, which is where they recorded that. And again, it blows the doors off of the version from Nursery Crime.
Mhm.
And then It and Watcher of the Skies. Again, it's another one of those things where it's like, what am I listening to? Again, with Bill Bruford and Phil Collins just going apeshit. Just that whole outro sequence where they're just, riffing over the theme of Watcher in the Skies. It's just absolutely phenomenal. Again, I get chills just talking about it. It's so good. Again, that's another piece of evidence I give to you, dear jury, about why there should be a full release of the Trick of the Tail tour, because it's just
Yeah.
it's just mind-blowing
You see,
what Bruford and Collins did together.
You see, and you're giving me information that I didn't know. So, I mean, yeah. And long and short of it is, up to this point, when you release a live album, release a live album. Don't give me 3 sides, and don't give me tracks later on that, oh, you need to listen to this, get this box set. That's the only way you can get it. That is complete and utter bullshit. I'm sorry. Okay. But I digress. We move on. Now, just a quick question. Between
Yes.
3 Sides Live, I'm talking the full concert version of 3
Yeah.
Sides.
Okay. Yep.
And Seconds Out. Do you see an improvement? Do you see a regression? Do you see a progress? Do you know what I mean? Like in terms
Yeah. It's okay. So let's talk about the 3 sides of 3 Sides Alive.
Okay.
There's something about the sound quality that's just off. It doesn't sound as
I would agree.
it doesn't sound as it lacks the punch of Hugh Padgham's production that he brought to Abacab. I think Genesis produced them themselves.
Yeah,
And I think this was another King Biscuit Flower Hour taped thing. And so the sound quality is a bit off. And so production wise, it doesn't stack up as well as what's on Seconds Out. From as far as the songs go, it doesn't stack up to what was Seconds Out. The exception being, of course, the In the Cage medley, which holds a very special place in my heart, because that's just a phenomenal, mind-blowing thing to me. That whatever that is, that 3/4 of side 3 is just fantastic. In the Cage medley is great. And then of course, so if you take the 4th side with Vine and Salmacis and It and Watcher of the Skies, that gets it into Seconds Out territory, but doesn't it can't stay in that neighborhood for very long. I guess the only other thing about the 3 Sides Live that I see as kind of a missed opportunity is that there were other tunes that they performed on the Abacab tour that didn't make it. One of them was Firth of Fifth, which was also recorded, mixed, and mastered, and was released, believe it or not, as a B-side to, I think it's gonna get better is where it had its first release in the UK. Now I remember getting it as the B-side, and I think I'm remembering this right. It was a 12-inch single in the US of the extended version of Mama and the extended version of It's Gonna Get Better.
Mhm.
Side 2 was Firth the Fifth, recorded the same place, Savoy, that the rest of Three Sides Live was recorded.
Yeah.
Phenomenal performance and recording.
Hey guys, we are back. You know what? When nature calls, you gotta go. So
Edits need to happen.
there you go. There you go. We're both getting on in life, and when you gotta go, you gotta go. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, we have been talking about Genesis Live, meaning specifically all 6 recordings of the all 6 live recordings of the Genesis catalog that have been released officially on this set here. Again, forgive the stubby fingers. Genesis Live 1973 to 2007. And we are going to pick up from where Jim left off about various performances that were left off of which album, Jim?
Well, I was saying for Three Sides Live that there was
Yes.
actually, different material that they played during the tour that just never made it. One of them was Firth the Fifth, which
Mhm.
actually did have a release. It was released, I believe, first as a B-side to It's Gonna Get Better in the UK. I first heard it when I bought the 12-inch single of Mama. It was the extended version of Mama and the extended version of It's Gonna Get Better.
Mhm.
And then the B-side was Firth the Fifth Live from the Three Sides, sorry, from the Abacab tour. So recorded at the Savoy in New York, like Three Sides Live, but it was produced, and I don't know why they chose to do this. It was produced by David Henschel. And to me, that's where you start to get the best of the two worlds, because you've got that kind of sound quality from Seconds Out provided to the caliber of the playing that they had in 81. And even though the songs, we're kind of sitting here saying, yeah, the set list isn't as good, I'd rather hear the stuff that's on Seconds Out. When they're playing stuff like Firth the Fifth or In the Cage or Cinema Show, I mean, it's clear that they've got their chops. They're
Oh yeah, they have
really
it down
tight
pat.
and
Yeah.
really, really solid. And I
Yeah.
certainly don't want to take that away from them. It's just that, I would much rather hear, Firth the Fifth than Follow You, Follow Me live. That's the Genesis that I'm there for, is hearing that stuff. So my understanding is that the this version of Firth the Fifth is also available on a greatest hits album that I think came out of the UK. It was called Genesis Turn It On Again, the best of 81 and 83.
I have it.
Okay, Firth the Fifth is on that version of Firth the Fifth.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, no,
I like it.
You like it.
I know what I like. I like
Okay.
what I know.
There you go. It's getting better in your wardrobe. Okay.
Yeah.
No, but that's just it. Like when you start releasing live material, like and sort of like a
Like piecemeal.
piecemeal, like here and there. It's like, what am I getting here? Like I want to know. Like, I just like to get complete performances myself, and the older I get,
Sure.
the more I'm, now I'm not that old, ladies and gentlemen, but I mean, the older I get, the more I'm realizing that I want to get a full, complete performance. I do.
Right.
I don't understand this sort of piecemeal approach of, we'll release it in the UK, but we won't release it in the rest of Europe, or we'll release it in North America, but never mind, Asia or whatever. It's like, come on, give me what there is to listen to. You know what
Right.
I mean? I just
So let me drill into this a little bit more about the full performance because I just want to understand more clearly. When you're saying the full performance,
Hmm.
are you on, would you accept kind of a compilation? So let's say the band played the same set list every night.
Hmm.
Would you want a live album that was a compilation of the best nights? Or do you want a warts and all performance from just one show?
Give me warts and all from one show. But when I
Okay.
mean warts and all, I don't mean I don't want to hear Tony Banks belching into the mic when he shouldn't be. I don't want to
I
hear
hate it when he does that.
exactly. I mean, it just throws everyone off, off their stride. I don't want to, I don't want to hear, Thompson flatulating when he shouldn't be on a stool, kind of a thing. Do you know what I mean? I want to,
I've
if
not heard that outtake before.
if there is a performance, for example, of say of let's take the okay, let's take the Duke tour. Let's take
Okay.
let's take the Lyceum performances, okay?
Yep.
If there is a show that consists of say 21 performances, 21 tracks of an entire show, give me the entire show. I want to know as a fan what you did on say June 10th, 1980 from start to finish. Give me the, say, of the entire show of
Okay.
Duke's Travels, Duke's End, etc. And just give me what you've done. I want to know.
So okay. So let's tease that out a little bit.
Okay,
Um,
tease away.
so so let's say on June 10th they perform Ripples and you know Tony Banks totally flubbed a portion of it. Happens, he's human. On June 10th, the next night, it's flawless. Would you accept the premise that it's okay to take the June 11th and put it into June 10th
Of
because
course,
it's the superior performance? Okay.
of course. But
Okay.
like, of course I would, because it is
Okay.
again the full performance.
Gotcha. So that's where it gets into. Okay, so it's kind of like what we were talking about on another video related to Frank Zappa, where the
Mhm.
Helsinki concerts, it's two concerts, but it's edited together to kind of sound like one show. And to me, it works as one show because
That's
it's the same
fine.
band, the same venue, it's the next day, it's fine. You just and I'm with you. I don't think I want to hear, you know, something that's slapped together from a show in San Francisco and a show in Los Angeles and a show in New York and one in Boston and et cetera. I'd just rather have it be mostly from one show
Mhm.
as possible. However, um,
There isn't,
there
however.
there is a however. I know that you did a Joe Jackson episode with Bill Schuster. I
Mhm.
don't know if you covered the live album 80 to 86. Uh,
No, we talked about it, but we didn't. I don't believe we covered it in depth.
Yeah, it's a double album. Each side was recorded on a different tour at a different place with a different band.
That's right. That's right. Yeah.
And to me, that's an example of something that's done very, very well. Different place, different time, different band. I'm okay with that sort of package being put together. And again, the marketplace probably couldn't support and make commercially viable a Joe Jackson live album from one tour. But if you cherry pick the best tracks from these tours and put together kind of a here's what you've missed if you've not seen Joe Jackson over the last 6 years,
Yeah.
that succeeded. That succeeded to me.
Okay. What I'm saying is this, and I understand what you're saying. When I say warts and all, I mean give me the full performance. But what I mean is this. I'll put this in too.
Mhm.
If, like you said, if for example they did they screwed up on Los Endos on,
Mhm.
say, June 9th, and they did it flawlessly on June 10th or 11th. Give me the flawless performance. If it is
Yep.
indeed a part of the set list for that tour, give me what you performed on that tour. Do not edit anything out. Do not remove sections. I mean,
Right.
it would be, again, like Queen removing the operatic section from Bohemian Rhapsody, which they did on Live Magic, you SOBs. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
give me the full performance
Right.
of it
And again,
all.
Genesis is in a place where it still has a rabid fan base. It would not be a cash grab if they did a full performance from every tour that corresponded with the album in release. I can't see those not being successful, especially if
If
they followed a Jethro Tull and King Crimson model.
if they released like commercially a version of Live at the Rainbow 73
Yep.
seconds out as a box set,
Yep.
etc., I would I'd be the first one. I'd be pre-ordering. I'd put a second
Absolutely.
mortgage on the house in order to get it, in order to purchase it. That's how far I would go. That's how much of a
Yep.
fan I am because I know the
Yep.
quality of the music and I know what we get.
Absolutely. If
So
they did a 76, 77 box set Genesis, I would be there like that.
there you go. There you go. Right. But I mean, we're fans, right? I mean, we know what we like and we know what we want. You know what I mean?
Yes,
So,
exactly.
but we must carry on, ladies and gentlemen. The fifth live album that was released, we are now talking about The Way We Walk Live, released November 16th, 1992, and January 4th, 1993. Now, the way they did this was dubbed the Dance Tour,
Yep.
okay, for the We Can't Dance album. We are not going to get into the discussion of whether or not, I mean, we could, but whether or not is this prog, is this Genesis? Because to me, there is a good combination of lengthy, uh, intricate compositions along with the AOR radio friendly tracks.
Yeah. Hence the original release of the shorts and the longs.
Yes, I was just about to get to that. Thank you for bringing this up. This, to me, was a bit of a flub of a release.
Yeah.
The album was released in two volumes, the shorts and the longs. The shorts was released on November 16th, 1992. You had 11 tracks on the on this album. The longs were released on January 4th, 1993, where you had 6 tracks, all of the lengthier compositions, the old medley, Home by the Sea, Second Home by the Sea, Fading Lights, Driving the Last Spike, Domino, and it ends with track 6, Drum Duet. Now,
Yep.
on this compilation here, as I hold it up to the camera again, there you go. You have this album, The Way We Walk Live, redone in the original set list the way they did it live on
Which you which
which
you
I
witnessed.
was very fortunate to witness again on June 6th, 1992 at the Sky Dome in Toronto. I had third row floors. I lucked out. Don't it was an amazing show. Now, what is your opinion on the not only this album, but the way they handled the original, excuse me, the original release?
I think it was we'll call it I guess it was a smart release because I think they knew that they by that time by 91, 92, they had fans in two camps. You know, they
Mhm.
and I'm going to quote Phil, from the first time that I saw Genesis before they went into one of the old medleys. And, I got people coming up to me, Phil says from the stage, people come up to me and they say, "Hey, Phil, how come you don't play that? How come you're playing this piece of shit thing from last year and you're not playing my favorite piece of shit from, 6 years ago when you guys were good. So I think they knew that was a very real component of their audience. And so I think, again, in another kind of smart commercial move, they did an album that placated the people who liked the AOR type of hits. And they did an album that placated, folks of a certain vintage like you and I that would appreciate, the longer pieces, even though they're more modern.
A fine vintage it is too, by the way. Go on. I hear what you're
There we
saying.
are.
Go on.
So I get it at the time that it made sense, and I was one of those people that like, I don't want the shorts. I'll wait for, if they're doing a shorts, they're probably doing a longs. So I waited for the longs to come out, and I got that, and it was good. Again, hearing the old medley and then hearing Domino, and which I don't care for, and Driving the Last Spike, which actually I do care for. I like that song. It just made me want the older Genesis more, and that there's probably an emotional component to that. It's like the first thing that you just sort of fall in love with. It's like, oh, this is just fantastic, and everything else is crap. That mentality that you can get into. And I'll fully confess to being sort of in that camp. But whether it's a shorts and a longs, or whether it's one show, in its proper running order put together, this is just not the Genesis I'm here for. I purposely skipped the 92 tour because I had seen him in 86. I had seen him in 84. To me, I could see which way the trajectory was going. And again, while I was pleased to have Driving the Last Spike and Fading Lights, again, they just don't reach the heights of their older stuff. But that's me. That's me talking.
Okay. For those of us who weren't fortunate enough to see the band in 84 and 86 and earlier, I mean, for me, it was a good show.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
Oh, they put on a great show.
when you have the actual album, the live album with the songs in the proper running order, you have Land of Confusion that starts it off. You have No Son of Mine, Driving the Last Spike, all medley consisting of Dance on Volcano, The Lamb Lies Down on Broadway, The Musical Box. All these are excerpts. First the Fifth, which, by the way, a blistering, and I do mean blistering version of guitar solo, from
Daryl did.
Daryl Strummer. Bloody hell. Like,
Yeah.
I'm done. That kind of a thing. It was that good. And then the medley also continued with I Know What I Like in Your Wardrobe. And then it went into Throwing It All Away. Fading Lights, one of my favorite tracks, Jesus Knows Me. Home by the Sea, Second Home by the Sea. I do like that. I do like Home by the Sea. Just the idea of criminals or thieves breaking into a house that's haunted.
Yeah.
And they can't get out. You know what I mean? Serves you right. You know what I mean?
Yeah, there you go.
Serves you right. There you go.
Yeah.
You got what you deserved, you sons of anyway. Okay. Hold on My Heart. I do like Domino in the Glow of the Night and The Last Domino. I do like that track. The drum thing, drum duet.
Amazing.
I saw this live, okay? Third row floors. I was like yay close to the amps. It was massive. It was loud and in your face. And I was just like taken aback like you would not believe. It was amazing.
Yeah.
Now, what I don't like about this set is there are, let me see here as I scroll down. There are, a couple of performances from 87.
Yes.
You have Mama and In Too Deep. You know what? What the hell are you doing? What's going on?
Yeah.
Think about it. I mean, you've got a good running order, a good set list, okay?
Mhm.
Why are you going to screw it up with two performances from 87? I don't get that.
Yeah. Yeah.
I
I
don't
hear you.
understand that. I don't understand that. Now, having said that, has this performance aged well over time from 92? No, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I don't think it
Yeah.
has. I don't think it has. I like certain songs. I like Domino. I like Fading Lights. I like, you know, Driving the Last Spike. But overall, has the set list aged well, the performance? No. I
No.
really don't think so. I think they were starting to lose slightly their edge.
Well, certainly you can hear it in Phil's voice.
Yes.
He was at that point where he couldn't begin to hit those things. And that was evident on the 86 tour,
Hmm.
which I want to get back to when we have a moment.
Hmm. Hmm.
But yeah, the way we walk, I mean, it's a nice snapshot in time. It sort of fits the Genesis pattern of doing two or three studio albums and then doing a live album.
Yeah,
But you know, again, it's not the Genesis I'm here for.
I agree with you. I agree with you. And you know, again, and I saw this tour, and like I saw this show. I remember sitting there watching them do the drum duet. The drum battle. I mean, I saw them. I remember when on the ending on the coda, let's say, of you know a domino where he's pointing at the audience, like you're the next, you're the next, you're the next, and he's pointing at me. I'm like, the fuck did I do? Kind of thing. It's like, I just got drawn into that. I remember all that. I remember
Sure.
the lights going down and everyone just freaking out, right? And it hasn't aged well,
Yeah.
right? For me as a performance. And again, guys, put in your comments below what you think, right? Obviously, that's what we're here for.
Yeah.
Now we come to the last album in the listing here, Live Over Europe. Double CD released November 20th, 2007, produced by Nick Davis, who was in charge of remastering the entire catalog for the band and who produced I
Mhm.
Can't We Can't Dance.
Yep.
Sorry, you did I
I was about to say not a fan of Nick Davis. I'm not a fan of the work he did from Trick of the Tail on with his remasters.
okay, okay. See, I don't have the remaster, so I can't speak to what was done. But for this album, it was really double CD released uh, together with When in Rome DVD, double DVD of documentary and performance of them in Rome. Oh my God, what to say about this performance?
So
Um,
you did not see this tour,
no,
right?
no. I mean, it did play in Toronto, but at the Bell Sports Arena, but I don't believe it. I think it was the Bell Sports Arena. I wasn't able to see them for this one.
So here's where our roles reverse. I actually did see this tour because they came through San Jose. It was, I think, the second to last stop. The From San Jose, I think they went down to Hollywood Bowl where where they ended the tour.
Mhm.
Um, um, I'm glad that I went, but I kind of knew what I was getting into. It's like, all right, this is probably the last chance I'm going to have to see a band that meant so much to me and whose pockets of music still mean so much to me.
Mhm.
Um, so, I'm happy that I went. I have nice memories of it. But again, it just doesn't hold up very well as an album to me. Part of it is the song selection. Part of it is just, they're singing stuff, very much noticeably a couple of octaves lower to match where Phil's deteriorating voice, has gone.
Mhm.
There's I was glad to see them do ripples. I was glad that there was so much from Duke that was part of the show.
Mhm.
And again, the drum duet going into, at least on this tour, they did the drum duet into Los Endos. I think for the 92, they just did the drum duet on its own. I don't think it went into Los Endos, right?
No, yeah, just on its
Yeah.
own.
And it was amazing because for folks who haven't seen the video, Phil and Chester designed the duet to be basically like how they would rehearse it. And they would basically start in a hotel room where they would sit across each other and have a footstool between them and just start banging out patterns.
And working on a
It's
drum pattern, yeah.
right. And then they emulated that on the tour where they got basically a standing,
Stool,
padded bar stool,
yeah.
and they would stand opposite each other, and then they would just, be jamming on this pattern back and forth, and then very slowly, as they
They
would
would,
start to they would start to move to the kit.
yeah, they would
So,
maneuver to the kit, yeah.
you would have these patterns that Phil would be doing, and then, he'd start adding on
Yeah.
the toms and
The
whatnot.
fills, yeah.
And eventually they moved in fully into the kits, and it was just,
Mind blowing.
fantastic from there. Yeah, I mean, they still had the goods. They could still deliver it. I mean, I know Phil was in pain. He was starting to experience all of his, back problems then. But it sure didn't seem like it slowed him down physically yet.
Yeah, no, I would agree. I bought this solely on the strength of, I bought the other albums, I bought the other videos and DVDs. I want to see what this is about. I want to watch it. I love, I knew all the songs. Ooh, they're doing Duke's intro. They're doing, all these, deep cuts
Yeah.
that I love, right? Um, but as I think I said to you at the beginning of the show about 10 years ago, um, when we started this, that watching the documentary and seeing Phil and Tony fight or disagree heavily
Mhm.
on song selection, and Phil saying that, doing the intro to Domino Part 2 is boring. It's like, you know what? You wrote the bloody thing. You know what I mean? You
Yeah.
had your hand in writing this composition. On Lynn drums, by the way. Okay.
Right.
So if it's boring, you have yourself to blame and thank for it. I'm sorry. If you
Yeah.
think it's boring, you're the one that wrote it, you composed it, you arranged it, blame yourself.
Yeah.
But as a fan, it was disheartening for me to know that he really wasn't into doing this tour
Mhm.
because he wasn't physically up to it.
Yeah.
Okay. And when they would do interviews for this tour, he would only show up for 5 minutes and then leave because he had something to do with his son. You know what I mean? Like,
Mhm.
you're doing a press conference for this tour. You're doing an interview for this tour to promote this tour.
Right.
It would be like, again, like a little tangent. It would be like Madonna knowing that she lip syncs,
Mhm.
which she does, and she admits it, deal with it. And being okay that sellers for her, like vendors for her concerts, were selling tickets for like $6,000 and taking the money.
Yeah.
If I'm paying $6K to see you shake your ass on stage, sing live off the floor. Bum notes and all. I do not care.
Right. Well, you might.
But no, I mean, if I'm paying that much money, sing live.
Yeah.
If I'm paying that much money to see you in concert, be happy that act like you want to be there, kind of a thing. Do you know what I mean?
Sure. Yeah.
And if you can't really do it, then don't do it. I mean, it's just
Right.
comes down
And
to.
that's what was so kind of sad with the the final Genesis tour, where
Yeah.
Phil was just, sitting down, the whole time. Again, his health was pretty much shot. Anyone who's read his biography knows about all his issues with drinking. And then, on top of, all the physical ailments that he was starting to go through. I mean, the guy's body is just, it's
Shot.
just shot, absolutely shot. And, his voice was even, more shot. And, I think there's a really good reason why they didn't decide, whether they decided not to do a DVD release and decided not to do an album release. Just you can see it all on YouTube anyway. People recorded the shows, so
So you're saying that he shouldn't have, that this final farewell tour, can never say that word, farewell, that it should not have happened, that they should have stopped after stopped after '07 and just,
I don't know. I mean, I it sounds like part of the motivation was, surely a motivation is money. Surely, there are people out there who will pay to see it. I get where Phil was saying, where it's like he wanted the experience of giving Nick, his son, who replaced Chester on this tour,
yeah, that's
to
another issue. Yeah.
yeah, to see, he wanted Nick to see what the old man could really do, and to see what that band was capable of drawing, and the power of the performing. And Nick Collins, great drummer. I've watched some of his videos on Drumeo and whatnot, and he can handle those parts, very, very ably. So not a knock to Nick, but I yeah, I wish that they had let 2007, I think, kind of be it. And if they really wanted to generate more income, but give the fans what they wanted, I wish they would have done a proper, um, you know, archival release series similar to Tull, similar to King Crimson.
Yeah.
I said I wanted to rope back to 86
Please do.
just for that reason.
As we wrap
So
this up, yeah, please do.
so the Invisible Touch, I dislike Invisible Touch. I except for Land of Confusion, I pretty much loathe that album. I bought Invisible Touch as a single because it was in advance of the album. Before I hadn't heard it, saw it at Tower Records, bought the 45, took it back to the dorm room, played it, and I just kind of held my hands in my head and I just said, "Oh my God, the Phil colonization of Genesis is now complete," because it just sounded like the template for Sussudio, but done by Genesis. Now,
I'll just interject something, and
yeah,
the reason why for the sound on Invisible Touch was he wanted to do what Prince and Sheila E. were doing.
well, sure, and he did that on
Yeah.
No Jacket Required quite successfully, because that
And
sold
quite repeatedly.
and quite repeatedly. Yeah,
I
absolutely.
should say. Sorry, but I digress. Go on.
So again, still talking college times. I was in the dorms, and I knew Genesis would come into town. They were doing, like 3 nights at the Coliseum, and they just kept adding night, night, night. Like in the end, they ended up playing 6 nights there. There's a buddy of mine in the dorms who said he had an extra ticket, knew I was a big Genesis fan, and wondered if I'd go. And I'm
I
like,
think
I
I know
don't
where
want
you're
to.
going with this.
And well,
Keep
you
going.
you okay, we'll see. Hold that thought in your head. And he said, do you want to go? And I'm like, no, I don't want to see this stuff live. No. And he's like, dude, I really want to go with someone. I know you're a fan. It's free. It's on me. Just come to the show with me. And I kind of consider what my
He
schedule was.
guilted
I'm
you,
like,
didn't
all
he?
right, yeah. And so I said, all right, I'll go. You've talked me into it. I'll go.
I know where you're
And
going.
the evening went just about like I thought it would. it was pretty much everything from Invisible Touch,
Everything.
a lot of stuff from Shapes. They did do Abacab, which was a phenomenal version
Oh my God, yeah.
of Abacab. That's great on that tour. And then they did, and of course, I'm sitting through the show and I'm like, all right, I know it's going to be over soon. Um, and then they started into In the Cage. Now, folks who've been around know that usually In the Cage will go from In the Cage, Cinema Show, Afterglow.
Yeah.
In 84, they did Cinema Show, Afterglow, In That Quiet Earth, and then Afterglow.
Okay.
Now in 86, this is early on in the tour, and still finishing the US leg, they start within the cage, and then they go straight into In That Quiet Earth. So just in that 6/8 time, just cranking into it. And I thought, okay, I know where this is going. They're going to do, and it was great. It sounded fantastic to hear In That Quiet Earth, especially once the guitars start crunching in. Um, and I said, okay, well, how convenient. This will go straight into Afterglow, and that'll be that. So I was thinking I knew where it was going,
Mm-hmm.
but I didn't, because this was pre-internet, kiddies, and there wasn't YouTube, and there wasn't blogs, and there wasn't all this stuff. And when they went from the concluding fade out notes of In That Quiet Earth into Apocalypse in 9/8, I lost my freaking mind. And I'm like, yes, this is the Genesis I'm here for. I'm here for this.
You lost your shit. Go on.
I did. And I was just,
Blown
after I
away.
screamed my bloody head off, I was just, transfixed, watching Phil and Chester handle that 9/8, watching Tony do his thing. Phil, comes and does the vocal line, 666 is no longer alive. He's got the big spotlights on him. And then it gets into the whole concluding section, the denouement of the piece, as you will. And they slowed down the tempo just a little bit, and it just made the whole thing even more dramatic. And so this was the first and only time that I had heard anything from Supper's Ready live. And again, I just lost my mind. I mean, I would say it was worth the price, but it was there. I didn't pay a cent.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if they were to release a live set from the US, from that US leg of the tour, I would buy it, even though I can't stand the majority of the material on that. The Invisible Touch stuff, the Shape stuff, I'm tired of. But for that 20 minutes of just musical
I got it.
epiphany,
I get it.
you put out a 2 CD set of that. Here's my $35. I'm totally there. Again, and the thing is that when they continued the tour in 87, they dropped it, because they were on tour in like Australia or New Zealand, and it was in there, and Phil just couldn't hit the notes. He had just totally lost his ability to sing, the whole concluding part of Supper's Ready. And so that's why they went back to In That Quiet Earth and into Afterglow. And you could hear his voice start to crack and lose it. I could hear it in Oakland. There's a whole bunch of stuff on the internet where you can hear versions of this. And again, they're killing it.
Yeah.
They're absolutely killing this old material. And again, this is the missed opportunity of the Genesis live archives, where they could really make fans happy by doing this stuff properly.
I agree with you. I mean, what to say? I mean,
Yeah.
I mean, like, getting back to Live Over Europe, when I listen to it, I think the tempos are slower. Everything is just slowed down, right? Even the guitar solos, even
Yep.
the, it's they're doing it for the sake of doing it, not for it just seems they're doing it just for the sake of doing it, not because it's what they want to do, right?
Right.
And Phil Collins had said during one of the production meetings after one of the rehearsals where he threw a temper tantrum of not being able to drum. He said, I'm going to put this right out there. I am not about to do a full world tour. I will do selective dates, but me doing a full tour will never happen again.
Yes, I
And
remember that press thing. It's like, we're not calling it a tour. It's a selection of shows.
yeah, but he was talking to Tony Smith and Tony Banks and Mike Rutherford, and he's saying, you know, everyone is just sitting here waiting for someone to say something. I'll say it. I'll just go out and say it. I'm not doing a tour. I'm not doing a full tour. I can't do it. I refuse to do it. I want to spend more time with my family. My kids need me. I'm not doing it. So if you guys are thinking of doing a full tour, count me out.
Hmm
And they're all like, okay, the ball has been dropped. Like we have to do something here. We have to
Right.
acquiesce to him because if we
hmm
don't, all the money that we already shelved out is gone. Do you know what I mean?
Well, yeah, and it's just kind of a silly semantic game because they played continental Europe, they played the UK, and they
Yeah,
played the US and Canada. Now,
yeah,
it's not a world tour, but it's Europe and the Americas. I mean,
yeah,
yeah, you didn't make it to Japan, you didn't make it to Latin America, but
yeah, yeah. It just
those aren't
it,
the
yeah,
yeah.
it just seemed like the last two tours, and we're gonna wrap this up, ladies and gentlemen. But it just seemed that the last two tours just they were phoning it in. They were phoning it in. There was infighting between Phil Collins and Tony Banks in terms of what they were going to do and how they were going to do it. And it was just like, you know what? I don't need to see this
Yeah.
because it gives a bad mark on the memory of the band.
hmm
Do you know what I mean? For the
Yeah,
fans. So,
sure, absolutely. And
uh,
there's treasure there that they would be warmly embraced by the fans if they only took the time to give them what they want. Like
dig through
this,
the treasures and polish them off and put them out.
yeah, like they had an opportunity with this BBC broadcast box set from last
Yeah,
year or 2 years ago.
I have
And
it.
again,
Yeah.
the sound quality on it is pretty specious in parts. And again, it's portions of shows. It's not the whole shooting match, which is what Genesis fans want. It's like, okay, I want the Abacab tour. I will sit through Who Done It. Really, I will. But give me a full show from
Give me the full
Abacab, a
show.
full show from Duke. Give me. And then there were
Mhm.
three. Every tour has gold in it. It
Yeah.
really does.
Yeah. I
And
mean, and
and
in little footnote, I do have that BBC set. I haven't touched it.
yeah,
Not touched it. It's still in the den because it's not a full performance, right?
yeah.
So, anyways, ladies and gentlemen, there you have it. An extended edition of Music Den on Genesis live albums discussion. So I sincerely want to thank Jim for joining me on this episode. Originally, it was going to be myself doing an album ranking on the live albums, but Jim said, "Oh, I can jump in on this," and that's great because his contribution to this is gold and platinum. I swear to God, because he offers insight that I could not, right, and vice versa. So again,
It's fun to talk about this stuff with you, Armando. I'm really enjoying it.
well, no, I enjoy that. I enjoy that you enjoy it, and I do appreciate you joining me in on it. So, ladies and gentlemen, in the comments below, if you will, please give us your opinion on any of these shows. And again, this is the booklet that's in the box set. Okay. Genesis Live, they have released many different box sets, different colors of different years, different year eras, sorry, of
Yep.
their recorded catalog. There's also a movie, there's one of all the video sets called video.
I think it's called the movie box.
Let me start again. Yeah, there's one called the movie box, which includes all of the DVD movies, that concert films that they released on VHS and then DVD. So there you go. I finally got it out. These sets are still available. They're not, from my understanding, they are not still in wide circulation. If you want to get them on Amazon, you're going to be paying through the nose. You have to put out a third mortgage on your home in order to get one of them. So look them up on eBay, look them up on Discogs. And a little side note, for the individual out there who had this book with the Live at Rainbow 73 CD and DVD on eBay for $163. No, I would never pay that much for that. I'm sorry. Okay, I would never pay that much. I don't know what you were thinking. Never. Anyways, ladies and gentlemen, please again put your comments down below. What you think about these albums. I mean, there is an era for everyone's likes and tastes in terms of their catalog. Do you like the 73 era? Do you like, the 76, 77, 78 catalog era? Sorry, live era. Do you like the 81 live era? Do you like the, 92 live era? Do you like the 2007? There are tastes for everyone. Okay. So, again, I want to thank Jim for joining me on this episode, and
My pleasure.
no problem. Anytime you want to come back on, and he will be back on, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to be having another episode of Live Albums Discussion, that's going to be coming up soon. We are also going to be coming up in July at some point, we are going to be discussing with Bill Schuster our 31 perfect albums from track 1 to track 10, all killer, no filler. And I
Sheer perfection.
Sheer perfection. And no music genre is off the list. We can go from, pop, rock, jazz fusion. Nothing is off the list. So I've come up with my list. Jim's come up with his list, I do believe. And I hope that Bill's come up with his list. So that's coming up as well. Coming up in August, we are, and I'm jumping ahead here, but we are still going to be doing our top Looney Tunes cartoons.
Hope so. Hope we can do that. Yeah.
We will definitely be doing that. We've each picked our top Looney Tunes cartoons, so it's going to be good. It's going to be a fun episode.
Yeah.
You've heard me say the term flipping the script. We've blown up the script. The script does not exist for this one coming up. So, ladies and gentlemen, again, please look after yourselves and one another. Please click like and subscribe and hit the notification bell to keep yourselves on top of any new content that I've got coming up. I have got an episode coming up called "Is This Still Pink Floyd?" Stay tuned for that. So
I'll be there.
Do you want to join? Well, I'll fill
I
you
don't
in.
know. I'll have to check my dance card.
I'll fill you in on the content.
Okay.
So for Jim Bricker, I am Armando Venditti signing off. Please look after yourselves and one another, and we will see you soon, very soon, with another episode. Bye for now.